today to share with you now two things. One instrument about Agile transformation and also our story of MDI about Agile transformation. And before we basically go into that, let's just consider, is Agile leadership, which is the main word here, is this just a hype? Is it a fashion? Is it something which will pass, which will go away? And I can imagine that maybe in 10 years we will not talk much about Agile anymore. But I'm pretty sure that the waves of disruptions, so basically, yes, we see it in lots of companies, we hear already Agile, we can't hear it anymore, it's a buzzword, yes. But what I'm pretty sure about is that the waves of disruptions are not getting smaller. The frequency is not getting slower. Just look at what happened these days. Another big giant has fallen. Thomas Cook, thousands of people, basically clients, but also employees, are now basically waiting for what's going on. And if you look at how they analyzed how this could happen with a company which was, I think, about 160 years old, yes, a real traditional giant, yes. And they said, well, they obviously didn't see the signs of times. They didn't see the changes in the internet here. This is at least one of the first superficial analysis. So I think the topic of transformation is extremely important. I personally believe that we live in an accelerated evolution. And that's why probably it's extremely important that we are able to adjust quickly. So that means for us as MDI, what we want to do is we want to support leaders in companies, in organizations, to be able to succeed in this fast change, and like this also contribute to making the place a better world. I think this topic has never been so strong as it is now, yes, because we know, especially with the speed, we see the consequences quicker, and we see the consequences of 200 years of industrializations now. So I think it's extremely important to think about what is going on when we are changing. Where are we? In which direction are we going? But let's start with our own story. So our early initiatives, basically, they were around 2012. We had a strategy workshop, and we said, well, in order to keep up with technological progress, we need to sell 40% of our revenue in e-components 10 years later. So now it's only 3 years there. We're not fully there yet. Nevertheless, this was the starting point. And yes, we started with doing lots of blended learning. We didn't want to do trainings as a training company as such alone anymore. We wanted to learn processes. And we researched a lot on the topic of lateral leadership, which I think is more than 50% of leadership in companies nowadays, because people are not working, organizations are not working in such hierarchical way anymore, or not only, but it's extremely important to win commitment in networking and on the same level. But then came the year 2016, and we could also say the unfortunate year 2016, because it was a kind of a surprise for us. It was the first year after being used to 15% growth each year, where we had a drop of 9%. We also had some leadership crisis. We couldn't decide who is doing what and who is taking responsibility for what and so on. And we had a higher people turnover than we felt comfortable with. Nevertheless, as it is, a crisis is always either a big problem or it's a big chance. And I would say it was also the wake up year. And there was also something else happening. And I look at my colleagues from our alliance partners that our alliance partner Haufe in Germany invited us to join a project where we would have to implement OKR trainings in one of the big car building companies of this planet. And well, the first thing what we thought was, well, we didn't do this in our own company, so we have to walk the talk and get our own experience. So what we did basically within a month, we decided we're doing OKR from 1st of January, went to some trainings, I watched lots of videos, and I even facilitated the first OKR workshop, which is against the rules. But the main thing is we started quickly. And the interesting thing is, with starting OKR, a lot of other things were happening. First, we realized that our vision and mission is not really fitting anymore. So we had a typical type of vision to be one of the leading companies or the leading company in leadership development. Who is interested in that? Yes, what we want to be. So we were thinking more about what's our contribution. Yes, what do we want to reach with that? What would be our impact? We also introduced the strategic roadmap because OKR is nice if you look at the next 3 months, but you also need to have a long-term perspective, a context for that. We also changed the structure in the company. We had before two separate bigger departments. One we could call key account management, the other one seminar organization project management. And especially our trainers, consultants, they lost overview with whom they are working together on which project. So what we did is we introduced team organizations, and they were customer focused. Smaller units, customer focused, and this reduced complexity a lot and made us much more flexible here. And in order to stay closer with what's really important for the team members in our company, we found a tool on the market which was called Team Echo. And up to then, I was also myself in HR for quite a while. I knew that companies are doing yearly employee surveys, and it's a lot of work to do that, and so on. And Team Echo provided a solution where you get feedback each week, and almost basically without any extra effort. And also, this made quite a difference to stay here so much closer in contact. So that was the kickstart, you could say, for us into Agile transformation. Nevertheless, it can make sense to think about a more structured approach. And here we looked around. What is typical about Agile change? Is it the same thing because change is anyhow Agile already? And then we found with HR pioneers and also partly McKinsey, some models which are accompanying change. And we adjusted it to our needs. And I would like to introduce this to you. The one thing is here, this horizontal axis here is about change has to happen in different transformation dimensions. It's not enough to change structure or strategy alone. It's also about processes, about culture, and so on. Yes. And here we basically get the timeline. Yes. We find it comfortable to work in quarterly levels, but you can also do it on a monthly level if it has to go really quick, or maybe if you have time then on a yearly level. And here we basically introduced the Agile maturity degree, but we're not saying that there is something objectively as a goal, but basically like in coaching, we're using the scale question, asking ourselves what would be on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 for me as an Agile organization. Because for us in our industry, this is something different than in retail, in banking, in IT, and so on. And if we bring it then together, what you get is something like this. Don't worry, you don't need to read that here. We will go into the details, but I just wanted to show the overview. You see here basically the timeline, the quarters, what is happening. Here you see the transfer dimension, and here you see the maturity degree. And here is lots of instruments we have been experimenting with. And after time, it adds up. So I would like to give some examples. So what came also with OKR, we discovered Google Docs, and we found out, hey, this is a cool tool if you lead virtually, because we're leading also some companies in Brazil and in Germany, and also yesterday we had a meeting where nobody was in the same office, and to have Google Tabs or stuff like that, it's really easy to, for example, document together, to meet together, and to make progress like that. Yes. Then we changed, you see, by the way, here always the trafo dimension. There is not 100% exact, how should I say, always order that it is only strategy, but for us it had the dimension of strategy, for example. We changed our marketing strategy and we said, we don't want to talk about special offers or something like that, yes? What is important is to give inspiration, to share basically thoughts about leadership, and if people are interested, anyhow ask us about more things. And this works out pretty well. On the empowerment side in HR, what we started is basically a home office regulation, which in the meantime I think most companies have already. We also started quarterly development talks because OKR is nice when it comes to setting the priorities for the company, but at the same time it's important to look at the development of team members. And we did it on a quarterly level. We learned that also from Google. We reduced it now to half a year level because we ended up with having too many meetings, feedback meetings, quarterly development meetings, and so on. So we're learning and adjusting here, but something which is important because people want to develop, yeah? And we had our first fuck up night in 2017. I remember pretty well. We were on the Neusiedler Lake on a boat, and it was in the context of the international trainer meeting. And one person after the other was coming with the microphone and sharing a real fuck up story. And it was cool. It loosened up the atmosphere. It made it easier to say, okay, it's okay to make mistakes. This happens. Only like this is how we are learning, and we're really learning from that. And what I liked a lot is when I saw the first Kanban wall in the office. So there was no cause on my side. It just it happened, and then soon after, one office after the other was having Kanban walls, and I was the last one to basically join the Kanban tradition in our company. In the meantime, everybody's working with Kanban flow, and I do it as well. And I can say I'm convicted that this makes a lot of sense. But this showed me that it gets some auto dynamic, the whole thing. And in design thinking, you would not normally see in the HR empowerment dimension, but the topic which we wanted to solve was, we were growing pretty fast, especially in the first year when we introduced OKR, and since then we are growing. Yes. And growth, and this year was 37%, has a challenge on the team development side. So we wanted to know, how can we keep up in our team development with the growth of the company? And for this, we made a design thinking process. And it was pretty cool because alone with, for example, semantic analysis of the problem, we realized that the problem was maybe not the right question. And we came to pretty good, interesting solutions here. And for sure, this is one dimension which we added, the portfolio, because I think Agile transformation is not only an internal thing, it's also an external thing. What are we offering to our clients? That's why we added the portfolio dimension here. And yes, we introduced our Agile Leadership short program, which is the first one in the German-speaking countries, and booked very well. We started lots of webinars about Agile tools, and we started the consulting in the area of OKR because we were so excited, and there was not much going on the market yet. So we arrived in 2018. What we realized is that the market is changing from extremely fragmented. When I started, and it's a while ago already, so thanks for the boy, yes. So it was extremely fragmented. We still have thousands, 10,000s of trainers only and consultants only in Austria. In German-speaking countries, 100,000 or something like that, yes. But what we're seeing in the last years is a strong concentration, and this has a lot to do with technological progress as well. Not only so internationalization and technological progress. And that's why we, for Austrian environment, yes, we are a kind of a bigger institute. Internationally, we are a small, mid-sized institute. So we can only basically provide real good value if we have cool alliance partners which have a good synergy. And that's why we started to approach different companies which strengths in e-learning production, in some software components, and so on and so on. In the basically on the culture side, we had our first autonomy day. Who of you had already autonomy day in the company, just to get a feeling for? Nobody, almost nobody. Okay, an autonomy day basically means you ask, and this is how we did it, we told everybody in the company, you can devote one day, it was just in a quarter, so it's homeopathic, but one day basically of your time on whatever you want, yes? The only precondition, or the only condition, or what is important is that it somehow brings MDI forward. And then we present this to each other. That's the only thing about it. And we have learned this from some software companies. I think 3M is doing it as well. And this is a pretty cool thing because for sure you think, when should I take the time and so on, but people liked it. They brought in so great ideas, and lots of them we have implemented immediately. Like, for example, the next one, we realized, like probably many of us, that we have lots of emails, and it would be good to shift some of the traffic to a more efficient way of communication, which is a Gemma here. And Yes, and we also basically said then that we want to try out Lego Serious Play for us. So we had a first workshop here, and I remember very well that we built a pretty nice vision and solution development, which is quite abstract, because we thought, what will be leadership development in the future? Maybe it will be something like a software like Siri or Alexa or something, which you carry around with you, which knows exactly what's your next challenge. In 2 hours you will have a meeting with your boss or with a colleague and so on. It will be about negotiation. Suggest you, do you want to repeat maybe the main principles of negotiation? And do you have your 3D glasses here so you can do skill building or something like that? So we think that also our learning process will be more and more automated and will be at least accompanied by software. We're not there, and it will take quite a while to get there, but I know that some others in the industry also thinking about similar developments. Then, yes, let's continue. We don't need to go into all of that. We developed leadership principles. We did it a lot of times already for our clients. It was time to do it for ourselves. We defined that we want all-in contracts instead of watching the time, because we think it's about results at the end of the day. We developed a career track where it's not only about career is about hierarchy, but it's also about deepening the expertise. Nothing totally new, but it fits to the culture here. We experimented with some bigger group events like Barcamp, Hackathon. It was a lot of fun and we had good results. That's why we kept doing this. And I was also part in our first Working Out Loud circle in the company. So 12 weeks in a row working disciplinary on a program, which helped us a lot because it helped us very much to develop the model of the disruption server in that time. And it changed the mindset. Because before in our industry, people were saying, yes, I'm researching this and this and publishing it. Here we realized if we co-create, we can do a lot more. And it's not so important from whom something comes, but that something comes out which is really helpful for everybody, for people, yes. And like this, we arrive in 2019. We try to build our Scrum muscles by using it in projects. We automated a lot of processes. Which I think was highest time to do that, especially in our cooperation with trainers worldwide. Now we can basically, with 2 clicks, we can access 1,100 trainers worldwide. And if a client says, do you have somebody in Shanghai for that and that topic, it's much easier. Before it was something like somebody was calling in the office, do you know somebody in Dubai with that and that? Yes, or writing an email like that, yeah. And what we also initiated is the so-called MDI partner model. I think this was also a big impact because before we were working as a normal company. And with the partner model, what we want to do and what we started is to give the chance to build a company with under an umbrella of a strong brand. And like this, we become more like a network who share a similar vision, but with a lot more of autonomy. And we basically started the concept phase at the beginning of the year. Now we piloted it until the end of September, and now we continue. So we have 3 partners on board, and we are in talks already with 4 other people here. And the last one here to share is we used business model canvas for ourselves because we said we have to continuously challenge ourselves. Are we doing the right thing? Because our industry is changing a lot, yes? Just 2 examples. One is represented here. Coaching is totally different nowadays, and I guess we will hear something about that than it was a few years ago. And if we don't go with time here, it doesn't make sense. Same thing with, for example, managed services, seminar organizations. We were basically being disrupted by a company who is working with people from India and all over the world and offering different services for a lower price. And we said, okay, we need to continuously look at where can we be really good, the best, and where also do we need to withdraw in order to have more energy and focus in the right fields. And here, for example, we realized that we should or we are discussing it now to build an own structure which is only focused on consulting to make sure that the development culture of us is not dominating the consulting too much. So here, again, in a summary, what you see here is lots of things were going on. I was not talking about all of them. And I think that the principle behind it is pretty clear. It's a very simple instrument. It's about balance, and this leads also to the question: was it always going well? And I would say no, it was not. Yes. For example, this year we realized, and this was really a stupid mistake. So it's like a fuck-up story. Yes. Because we realized in spring this year that we did make almost no profit in the last year. Sales was okay, but profit was very, very little. We were on the positive side, okay. So, but I was still ashamed towards the shareholders at that time, because this should not happen normally. And we also realized, oops, the first half year of 2019, we also were so enthusiastic about all our projects that we accumulated resources and we built up people costs by 25%, but we only grew 12% or something like that. That we realized, oops, we need to adjust here as well. What we learned here, for example, is next to agile methods, it's extremely important to also look at the good old management cockpit. So to have clear KPIs in the area of finance, customer satisfaction, quality, people satisfaction, and so on and so on. So yes, there were ups and downs, and that's okay. I think that's totally normal. Are we an agile company now? I don't know. I would say on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 meaning that would be the ideal level for us. In 2016, we were maybe on a 3. So there was not nothing. There was something already, but it was quite half-heartedly. And nowadays, I would consider us at around 7, which means, yes, there was quite some progress. And it was mostly because we tried out more or less everything which we found. And we kept quite some things, and others we let go again. There's still a lot of potential upwards, and also I think 10 in 3 years will be also different than now, because the environment is changing. So to summarize it with the main learnings, and I think we should anyhow make up a little bit of time here, is basically it's so simple, but it's so agile. Get started. Whoever has the feeling that in our organization we didn't seriously start it yet, I think it doesn't matter even if you're the CEO or if you're a team member, because there are instruments which we can use from one day to the other, like Kanban, for example, yes? Or I can introduce OKR just in my department. We did it in a bank academy, for example, 2 years ago, and it works pretty well, yes? And then, yes, for sure, like always, keep moving. And for keeping moving, yes, what we learned at least, have a close look at your cockpit. Now I read also, for example, that Amazon is extremely picky on that, to say, if you don't realize within 24 hours if something is not going in the ideal direction, then you're doing a bad job. And this is also, how should I say, at least it's a Silicon Valley company with a lot of impact, yes. And if we develop, it makes sense to develop in a balanced way. Basically, we also just started out, yes. We tried out different things, but after a while we realized, for example, that on the process side we were pretty weak. And like this is a little bit with a sailboat, which is basically almost capsizing, yes. You're doing a lot of things great, but in some area you don't do that great, and we need to look at it. And for that, I think this Agile Transformation Journey overview can help a lot in order to monitor and to plan Agile transformation, to adjust it, because it doesn't mean planning like a waterfall, but at least it gives an overview. It's like a map showing where we are, and we can discuss each quarter again, where do we want to go. I would like to finish this with basically saying that Agile transformation is not the end. It's just a means. Because transformation can go for the worse and it can go for the better, as we know from history. Same thing with technological progress. Lots of dangers, lots of chances in it. And that's why Agile transformation is only a means for something which means contribution at the end of the day to evolution, I would say, or at the end of the day of making this world a better place. And what we can do is, from time to time, go one step back and look at it, because time is so passing so rapidly, so many developments, but to take this moment of peace and think about, What are the consequences? Are we going in the right way here? Thanks a lot and have a great day.